What if the most powerful control system in your life isn't political or technological, but chemical? What if it operates silently beneath your awareness, shaping what you crave, what you repeat, and what you believe you chose? And what if it has been quietly optimized, not against you, but around you? Dopamine is often described as the pleasure chemical. That description is simple and misleading. Dopamine does not reward pleasure, it rewards anticipation. The possibility of reward, the hint of something better, the promise of what might come next. That difference changes everything, because anticipation is easier to manipulate than satisfaction. And modern systems have learned this well. You wake up and check your phone, not because you are happy, but because something might be waiting. A message, a notification, a sign of relevance. Dopamine spikes not when you receive the reward, but when you expect it. That subtle timing matters. It means the brain can be trained to chase uncertainty. And uncertainty is scalable. Digital platforms do not need to guarantee pleasure. They only need to maintain possibility. Infinite scrolling, autoplay videos, notifications arriving at irregular intervals, variable reward schedules. This pattern was not invented in the digital age. It was studied long before. Intermittent reinforcement, rewards delivered unpredictably, creates stronger behavioral loops than consistent ones. Casinos understood this. Behavioral psychology confirmed it. Technology refined it, and now it sits in your pocket. But this is not only about devices. It is about systems. Consider how productivity is structured. Deadlines, performance reviews, bonuses tied to targets. The promise of recognition fuels effort. Even when the reward is small, the anticipation sustains the cycle. Dopamine does not ask whether the goal is meaningful. It asks whether the goal feels attainable. And so environments are built around achievable micro-rewards. Likes, shares, streaks, badges, metrics, quantified validation. Over time, the brain begins to associate identity with output. You are not just living, you are performing. And performance has feedback. That feedback becomes chemical. But here is the quieter shift. When anticipation dominates experience, satisfaction shortens. The reward feels brief. The desire returns quickly. This is not failure of willpower. It is adaptation. The brain recalibrates. More stimulation is required to produce the same response. And so the system adjusts. Faster content, shorter videos, more extreme headlines, more frequent notifications. Intensity increases gradually. It rarely feels abrupt. That gradual escalation is key, because control does not require force. It requires alignment. When your neurochemistry aligns with system incentives, influence becomes seamless. You believe you are pursuing what you want, but what you want has been shaped by what consistently activates you. That shaping is subtle. Children grow up in environments saturated with micro-rewards. Educational apps gamify learning. Social platforms quantify popularity. Even exercise becomes streak-based. Completion is less important than continuity. Miss a day, and a notification reminds you. Not with pressure, with possibility. You could continue. You could improve. You could reclaim momentum. The language is gentle. The mechanism is powerful. And over years, this creates a new baseline. Stillness feels empty. Silence feels unproductive. Moments without stimulus feel incomplete. Dopamine becomes not just a reward signal, but a compass, guiding attention toward novelty, toward speed, toward comparison, and away from depth. Away from slow mastery. Away from long, uninterrupted thought. This shift rarely enters public conversation. We discuss distraction, we discuss addition, but less often do we examine how anticipation has replaced presence. How chasing the next update becomes more compelling than finishing the current task. How potential feels more exciting than completion. Notice the contradiction. Technology promises connection, yet the cycle it fuels often centers on individual validation. Productivity culture promises achievement, yet the reward structure often prioritizes measurable activity over meaningful impact. Dopamine does not distinguish between significance and stimulation. It responds to cues, and cues are engineered. Colors, sounds, vibrations, timing patterns based on engagement data, content personalized not for truth, but for retention. Again, not through conspiracy, through optimization. Systems refine what keeps you engaged. Engagement drives revenue, revenue drives refinement, and the cycle continues. But the most enduring influence may not be digital, it may be cultural. From a young age, achievement is paired with praise, grades with approval, performance with worth. This pairing embeds anticipation deeply. You learn to expect validation at milestones, and later you seek it voluntarily. Career promotions, social recognition, external affirmation. The chemical loop remains consistent. The environment simply changes form. If desire is partly constructed by reward pathways, how do you separate authentic aspiration from conditioned craving? That question lingers, because breaking the loop is not as simple as disconnecting. Dopamine itself is not the enemy. It is necessary for motivation, for learning, for survival. The issue is not the molecule, it is the ecosystem surrounding it. When environments are designed to continuously trigger anticipation, the nervous system rarely rests. And without rest, reflection weakens. Without reflection, repetition dominates. You begin to chase what feels stimulating, rather than what feels meaningful. The difference is subtle, but over decades, it compounds. Careers chosen for prestige rather than purpose. Relationships maintained through digital affirmation rather than depth. Habits formed around short bursts rather than sustained growth. None of this feels imposed. It feels chosen, and that is why it works. So what changes this dynamic? Awareness does not eliminate dopamine, but it interrupts automation. When you notice the urge before the action, you create space. When you delay a response by a few seconds, you retrain anticipation. When you pursue effort without immediate feedback, you rebalance reward pathways. Small acts, repeated intentionally. Because the same mechanism that reinforces compulsion can reinforce autonomy. Long-form reading, deep work without metrics, conversations without phones nearby, experiences that do not generate notifications. These feel slower at first. Less stimulating. But over time, they recalibrate satisfaction. They lengthen attention. They restore tolerance for silence. And in that silence, clarity returns. The ultimate control system is not an external authority. It is a feedback loop between environment and chemistry. The question is not whether dopamine influences you, it does. The question is whether you are aware of how often anticipation directs your behavior. Before you check for updates, before you refresh, before you chase the next milestone, pause. Ask what you are expecting. Is it information, validation, relief, or simply stimulation? Share what you observe in your own patterns. Where does anticipation drive your day? Where does it override intention? Because once you see the loop, it does not disappear, but it becomes visible. And visibility is the first shift from automatic response to deliberate choice.